Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, welcome, Brewer fans, to the Brewer Crew Review Podcast. Joining me today is Vince. I'm Craig. How are you doing, Vince?
I'm doing great, Craig. And we got Scotty and Chad on today?
No, they're busy with their own endeavors, apparently. But here we are. It's on the cusp of September, and the Brewers, who had swept 3 of their last 5 series, find themselves with a 3-game lead over the Chicago Cubs in NL Central as we go into September, or some Brewer fans have dubbed Craigtember. Unfortunately, not after me, but after Craig Counsell, the Brewers manager, because he's been known to have a great Septembers as a manager. With expanded rosters and flexibility, he seems to be able to squeeze the most out of his roster. So yeah, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that we'd be hitting September 1st with like a 70 to 80% chance of making a playoff spot, being in first place with a 3-game cushion in the NL Central, and the Cardinals were in last place, I would probably do a couple of backflips, Ozzie Smith style. So what are your thoughts so far on where the Brewers are headed here into September, Vince?
Yeah, I know it's really easy to kind of get wrapped up in, some of the short-term thinking that happens naturally when, the Brewers lose a series in Chicago like we just did. We wanted to at least win that series. But that being said, I, like you, am very excited that we are in the position that we're in. I think that this is a team that certainly, it has its strengths and it certainly has its weaknesses and holes. But that being said, I do think that the Brewers have the potential to be very tough down the stretch and in any postseason scenario. I don't think that this is a perfect team by any stretch, but I do think that we've got, a lot of talent. So I'll take it. It is what it is at this point. But certainly a 3-game lead heading into September. I know that there's an off day today as we tape this on August 31st. So yeah, I'll take that heading into September.
And we do finish up the season, of course, at Miller Park with a 3-game set against the Cubs at home. So that's kind of exciting. Hopefully we've got the division wrapped up before that series. If not, we'd probably still be vying for a wild card spot. So as the Cubs may be as well. I guess the unfortunate thing we just came out of a series at Wrigley where we won the first game but lost the last 2. If we would have won that series, we would have kind of taken control of a couple of things. Obviously, a 5-game lead instead of 3 in the division, which would have been huge. We also would have had a 1-game lead over or 2-game lead actually over the Cubs for the head-to-head record, and that's the tiebreaker. If there's a tie for the top of the division, there's going to be no 1-game playoffs anymore. Those are a thing of the past with the new collective bargaining agreement. So basically, they're going to go to tiebreakers, and the tiebreaker would be head-to-head play. And now us and the Cubs, I think, are tied with the same exact record. So that last 3-game series will decide whoever wins that series. Will also have the tiebreaker if it comes down to that. So that's some interesting tidbits. Other teams in the Central, the Reds, unfortunately, have fallen a little bit on hard times. Obviously, they didn't do that much at the deadline. So I think they're about 6 or 7 games back of us as of this 3rd of September here. So not that they can't win the division. They're right in the thick of the wild card race still, but it's obviously showing, them not adding, I think, specifically to their pitching staff. Yeah, they're 6 games behind us right now. Thank you, Tanisha, for that. Scott's intern. Yeah. So 6 games and back of us. They still have a shot, but in reality, they're probably looking to make one of the 3 wild card spots. They
actually claimed some pitchers today, Craig. We're kind of taping this at a weird moment where the afternoon of some of the team's waiver wire additions being announced. And I know that both the Reds and the Guardians were very active today. So both the Ohio teams were quite active. So to get to your point just about the Reds not adding, they seem to add more in the outfield today. They picked up former Brewers outfielder Hunter Renfroe today. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. So before we get into that, mainly the Angels, but also the White Sox waived a bunch of players. The Angels in particular. I mean, the Angels' actions this week are kind of questionable in my opinion. That it reminds me, for any of you listeners who have played in like a fantasy baseball or league, whatever, when you have an owner that realizes their team's not that good and that they're kind of desperate to try to make the playoffs, and they trade all their best prospects to make a huge push to try to make the playoffs, and then with a week left or something like that, they, in this case, a month here of the season for MLB, they just jettison all their players to the waiver wire, and it's just like a free for all, and it's kind of messes with the integrity of the league. Obviously, it's different because in the MLB, if the players get picked up, their contracts are owed and whatnot. But yeah, it's interesting. The Angels, they released Harrison Bader, and I'm sorry, that the Cardinals released Harrison Bader. The Hunter Renfroe was released by the Angels. Both those outfielders are picked up by the Reds, as you just mentioned. Also, the Angels released Lucas Giolito, Ronaldo Lopez, and Matt Moore, 3 pitchers, 2 of them starters. Matt Moore is a left-handed reliever. And the Cleveland Guardians picked up all 3 of them. So
one quick update from our interns here as a note, Craig. Harrison Bader was was waived by the Yankees, not the Cardinals.
Oh, that's right. Okay, my bad. That makes more sense. Both the teams are in last place. I'm confused.
Yeah,
Yankees and Cardinals. But anyway, yeah, you're right. Harrison Bader, former Cardinal, and also now it's going to be former Yankee, as he's now joining the Cincinnati Reds. Now, the Reds, I think, were pretty good on offense already. I think they're really in need of more pitching, but they do have Hunter Green, who just came back off the IL yesterday and pitched a really nice game and a big win for them. So again, they're still hanging in there, and they're definitely right in the thick of the NL wildcard race. So again, this is someone that could be a wild card opponent in the wild card round of the Brewers. So just to throw it out there, Vince, if you had to pick your druthers, and again, no one likes doing this, but let's just assume at this point the Brewers hang on to win the NL Central. They would host a 3-game wild card series at AmFam Field, of course, at the beginning of October, and play the last wild card team, the third wild card team. At this point, who would you rather that team be? The Cubs, Diamondbacks, Reds, Giants, or Phillies? I will say that the Phillies are likely to probably get the number 1 wild card, so we wouldn't have to play them. But the other teams, Cubs, Diamondbacks, Reds, or Giants, if you had to pick, like force gun to your head type of thing, which team would you pick to play?
Cubs. Yeah, bring them on. I want to beat the Cubs in October. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I remember back to 163 in 2018 was pretty special. The Cubs, despite 2016, have done a lot of losing in the month of October. So no, I'd say the Cubs. I would love to play the Cubs. My only qualm about that is that the Brewers, ticket office, and including our anonymous source, Tom Carter, would have to figure out ways to, because he works there, would have to figure out ways to keep that stadium from having so many Cubs fans in it, because that would be pretty embarrassing. But yeah, I'd bring on the Cubs.
I also agree with, and I was going to pick the Cubs, but to be different, I'll pick the Reds. The Giants, their offense doesn't scare me, but their pitching does, and they seem to be a team that has like these scrapper type that just kill the Brewers in the playoffs, and they also have Jack Peterson, who's a Brewer killer. So I'd want to avoid them, especially with their playoff experience. The Diamondbacks I'd want to avoid, mostly because I think they have a Cy Young Award candidate, and Zach Gallen. I wouldn't want to face him with the first game and go down in a hole or something. Just kick off that series.
And he pitched incredibly well against Milwaukee in April, if you remember that series in Phoenix. He was very, very tough on the Brewers.
And the Cubs don't scare me as much, but I guess I'll just go with the Reds here for the reason you pointed out. I'd like to have home field advantage with our fans, and I don't really want to have to deal with Cub fans. So I'd like to, if I had my druthers, I guess I'd pick the Reds. And I guess one of the caveats is that I think if the Reds would get that spot, I think the Cubs are not completely out of the playoffs, which I also prefer. So I'm just throwing that out there. But obviously, facing the Reds, they do have some decent pitchers, but I really feel like we have a supreme advantage over them on the pitching front, and so therefore, that's why I'll go with that hypothetical scenario. But anyway, are you at all surprised the Brewers? Now again, I think that both the Guardians and the Reds were above the Brewers in the waiver wire order, so to speak. So they probably, who knows who they would have actually signed. But I guess, are you surprised they haven't signed? They didn't pick up anyone off waivers. I know Mike Clevenger completely cleared waivers.
Yeah, that's what I was.
White Sox.
Yeah, that's who I was actually about to bring up, Craig. I'm surprised that Mike Clevenger wasn't claimed by Cincinnati. Certainly think that he would have provided at least a little bit of help to that rotation. And you know what? If I'm the Brewers, I'm going to pick him up in that spot as well. You know, we've had to fill in with guys like Colin Ray and you know, he's had pretty limited success, quite frankly. And you know, Adrian Hauser is hurt now. Wade Miley is back, obviously, but has been hurt. But Brandon Woodruff is back, but has been hurt. We've had a lot of injuries to our rotation. Julio Teheran filled in very well for a while before falling off a bit, but he's currently hurt. You know, I think I would have really liked to add a guy like Clevenger to the mix for the last, you know, 6 weeks of the year. I would have been very excited to get Mike Clevenger today. I know that there's been, you know, other teams that have kind of spoken a bit to maybe some clubhouse issues with him, but I would have taken a flyer on a guy like Mike Clevenger for sure today.
No, I agree with you on that, especially if Brew fans aren't aware. Adrian Hauser left his last start and has actually been placed in the IL, so we're really down our fifth starter to begin with. In fact, his rotation spot would come up on Saturday here against the Phillies, which is a big series at home, which I think is a litmus test on like just how good we're going to be in the playoffs. As the Phillies, I consider a really strong team. They were in the World Series last year, and that they, you know, we should be able to be a team like that in a 3-game series at home. But with that being said, Saturday's starting pitcher has not been determined yet. We're sitting here on August 31st. And speculation is, well, first of all, Julio Teheran is also currently on the IL, and he has done one rehab start so far, but it doesn't time out that he's going to be able to pitch for us on Saturday, and they want him to start another game in the minor leagues at least before coming back to the big club, possibly to help out. So the speculation is that it's either going to be Colin Ray, who's of course pitched in earlier in the season as a Brewers, or Robert Gasser, who has had a phenomenal year at AAA. I think he's 9-1, and he leads the International League in strikeouts with like 147 strikeouts and just around 110 innings or something like that. So he's had a phenomenal year. And I, as a left-hander, I really hope, and I'm guessing he gets the start on Saturday, makes his major league and Brewers debut this Saturday against the Phillies. We'll see. It could be Colin Ray, it could be someone else. So, but with that being said, you know, picking up Clevenger seemed like it would have been really nice for depth going into the final month, but why that didn't happen, I'm sure it was financial.
There's a financial component to the Clevenger situation as well. You know, with Clevenger, I think he'd be owed something like $5 million just for the 1 month worth of action. So that is a concern, I would say, for most clubs, including Milwaukee, certainly. So I would say that that's probably the reason why it's not just a quick talent evaluation. Yeah. So we'll have to have. I just got a note from Sky interns. $5.38 million would be the remaining salary plus buyout that he would be owed for 1 month worth of service.
Yeah, that's probably way too hefty for a small market team like the Brewers. So that makes perfect sense. So I guess with that being, I guess I'm not totally surprised. Circling back to the Yankees and their waiver wire movement, they also waived Josh Donaldson, third baseman, who's had a horrific year for the Yankees. He's very injury prone. He's an aging veteran at this point. There's speculation that Brewers could be interested in picking him up because he'd only be owed the prorated league minimum for the rest of the year. I guess before I give my thoughts, what are your thoughts on that possibility?
You know, there's a lot. You know, there's a lot of circulation. I know Scott's kind of our on the ground beat reporter, so we'll have to wait till he opines on this. But there's been a lot of talk about his issues in the clubhouse. Could you catch lightning in a bottle with him? Yeah, you could. He's obviously got a ton of talent at times. He's had that at least in his career. Former American League MVP. The clubhouse stuff, I kind of go back and forth about. I guess to answer your question, yes, I would take a flyer on him if everything was equal. I think he's probably an upgrade to a point, but I don't know that. I don't know. It's really tough to say. I guess I would over Brian Anderson, but that's just me.
Yeah,
you got to add him in the mix, but you know, I'm not like I wouldn't be terribly excited about it. He'd just be like another guy. I don't really see him doing much. He's had a terrible year. He didn't hit well last year. is it worth it? I don't know. It's just that we don't have many other good options, I guess, is why it comes down to, I guess, yes, at the end of the day.
To me, he's not even that much of an upgrade over Brian Anderson, who's now been regulated to our bench. And so, as both right-handed hitters, and the fact that Anderson can play the outfield, I think he's more valuable to us to remain on the roster, I guess, going forward. So, and Donaldson's clubhouse supposed negative clubhouse presence is, I think, the icing on the cake for me to say no, I'm not interested. I really, in fact, would be a little bit irritated if the Brewers do actually sign him. So hopefully that rumor is not true. So
what are those issues in the clubhouse? I guess I'm not even positive or sure about that.
I guess he is an a-hole. So
Well, but sure, but what does that mean? Like, what did he do? I guess I don't know.
I don't know. I guess that's kind of I guess that's all speculation, I guess. Fans and through the media or whatnot. So I guess there's been plenty of a-holes that have helped teams make the playoffs and gone deep in the playoffs all the way back, dating all the way back to like Reggie Jackson. So and probably way beyond that. So so I don't think that would be the number one deterrent, but I just don't like the guy. I don't want him on our team, I guess, personally. But
yeah,
I'm not in charge. So if the front office thinks he's going to help us make a push deep in the playoffs, then I'm not going to be totally against it. But I just don't like the guy, I guess, personally.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, because I saw that today. I saw some of our colleagues, in the media reporting that, and then I just couldn't find anything in terms of specifics. Like it's not that I don't believe what they're saying. I just am trying to figure out what it is exactly that he's done in the past. Is he a bad teammate? Is he, pulling a Avi Garcia with teammates' wives? Or, like, what's the problem? I just am trying to figure it out.
Yeah, no, it's hard to speculate. So getting back to the Brewers themselves, obviously the additions of Carlos Santana and Mark Canha have been a nice little jolt to the offense, especially their veteran bats, and compared to some of the rookies that we had been, and we still continue to play, but overall, we still have offensive struggles. The saving grace for this team, and I think the reason why we're selling first, is because of Christian Yelich's like unbelievable rebound into really an all-star level player. Unfortunately, to offset that great rebound, Willie Adames, who was our offensive player of the year probably pretty much the last 2 seasons since we acquired him from Tampa Bay, is having a fairly horrific season and barely, hovering above the Mendoza line and hitting in the middle of our lineup still because we don't have other options. Like there's a lot of key at bats he's coming up and striking out with runners in scoring position and really, I think, costing us dearly. I know he did in the Cubs series and previous ones. And so hopefully he can catch, he's heated up a little bit this last 3 weeks, but I really hope that he can really find the Willie of the last 2 years here as we hit September and hopefully October.
Yeah, of course, that'd be great. I was having a conversation earlier. Obviously the starting pitching has been our saving grace. Our bullpen has been outstanding for most of the season. The Christian Yelich, William Contreras combo has been awesome in our lineup. I think that the new additions have played really well and have actually exceeded my expectations, specifically Mark Canha. And then the young guys, I think, have provided obviously you're going to get some of the good and some of the bad when you're talking about a younger group of rookies, but have been just really fun and a great dynamic as part of our overall team this year. But you're right. Willie Adames has been going through a really bad season. There's nothing else you can say about it. I think that, you could probably argue as to what's causing that. I don't know if it's a kind of pitchers adapting to him a little bit more in the National League after 2 seasons. I think that you could actually see some of that starting last season. People just didn't want to address it or talk about it, but his offensive numbers in 2021 were amazing. In 2022, they were okay, but they weren't really, to me, the numbers of one of the best shortstops in the league. So I think you could see some of that actually starting already. I don't know if it's just a general downward slope for him, just because he's aging or what the issue is. But I certainly think that, or maybe it's something, something else. Maybe he's worried about his contract. I don't know. But certainly he has been a kind of an albatross on our offense all year. And you feel for the guy because he is a spark plug. He is a lively guy. He's a great personality. He's obviously seems like a very popular and fun teammate. But you do have to wonder, when or if he's going to be able to put it all together. And he has. It should also be pointed out he has continued to play great defense, with the exception of yesterday, actually. But that's going to happen to anybody, as frustrating as that was. But I still think that he's been playing great defense, and contributing in other ways too, besides his awful offense. But it's really going to, I think, be a question for the Brewers going into the offseason as to what we're going to do with Willie. I think his trade value has certainly taken a hit. Do we just bring him back next year? Do we try to extend him for cheaper? Do we part ways and move Terang to shortstop? I don't know. It'll be a very interesting topic, I think, this offseason.
Yeah, and he has under team control next year too, so we'd have to make a decision on when and if we might consider trading him before he hits free agency. I will say that he is a very aggressive right-handed hitter, and which is usually to his benefit, and he is streaky because of it. And I just hope that he gets on one of his patented hot streaks right at the right time to propel the Brewers deep into the playoffs this year. I guess that's what I'm holding out hope for, and we'll try to, hope that he turns it around here. I will say that it's really exciting to have Brandon Woodruff back in rotation. Freddie Peralta's having a great second half and really pitching like top of the rotation starter. Corbin Burns has had a kind of up and down year. Definitely not Cy Young quality this year. He had a great start against the Cubs and has kind of been turning around. If we have all three of our aces firing on all cylinders, and then we have the magician, Wade Miley, the magician, as our fourth starter, I'm feeling really good about our chances in short playoff series. So again, the goal is we got to get there, and hopefully we have enough offense now to do so. Even having someone like Rowdy Tellez back from the IL, I think, is a nice boon as a platoon hitter, or even left-handed batter off the bench. So overall, I just think we've improved. If nothing else, we've improved the depth of our team here since the trade deadline. And I'm feeling confident the Brewers are well on their way to making the playoffs this season, and that's pretty exciting to me. So, and I'm sure to all of our Brewer fans and listeners, which also includes my nephew Alex, my brother Brandon's son. Hopefully, he can become a guest on our show in a future podcast. That'd be cool. So,
that'd be great. His dad has done some great minor league analysis of things over the years for us too.
Yeah, maybe we can pass that baton on, definitely. So. Anyway, so looking forward to a great September here for the Brewers. And speaking of Craigtember, which I led this off with, Craig Counsell, usually, we need him to work his magic this month. I will point out real quickly, running out of time here, but that Craig Counsell, I heard him on a radio interview, and he was being pressed about, whether or not he's going to be signing an extension or whatnot, or what's going on with that. And he just very kind of demonstratively said that it won't be, we'll discuss that when the season ends. It's on the back burner right now. So I think, and he was pressed on it. He said, "Yep, we'll talk about that at the season." So I don't know where he's at or what's going on, but I'm very hopeful that the Brewers will be able to lock him up long term, as you already know my feelings on him. And it would be a tremendous loss to the organization if he happened to move on for whatever reason, hopefully not financial. But I'm confident that he's a Milwaukee Brewer at heart, and hopefully he'll stay here long term, but we shall see.
I'm not worried about him going to a different organization. I am a little worried in the sense that I have heard from numerous sources, not just Tom, but others, that he may want to spend some more time with his family. And that could be a very legitimate concern or a reason why he might not want to come back in 2024. So, I hope that this is not the last Craigtember that we have as Brewer fans. And I, of course, also applaud and love the job that he's done as our manager since he took over in 2015. It's hard to believe it's been that many years, but yeah, he's been outstanding. And it's been one factor of Brewers baseball in the last, 8+ years that we haven't really had to worry about is for the most part, his in-game managerial decisions have been outstanding. His ability to control a clubhouse have been outstanding. His ability to get the most out of, in some cases, very, very little actual talent have been amazing. And I think it would be a huge loss to the organization to lose Craig. So yeah, I'm hopeful that these rumors will be put aside, and it's not some issue with money or some issue with Mark Anastasio or ownership. Let's just hope that it resolves itself positively and that he signs a long-term extension here after the season.
Yeah, with so much uncertainty in the Brewers' future, obviously with Craig Counsell, with their impending free agents, not this offseason but next, and Bob Uecker, Bud Selig are getting up there in age, but I really just want something. I just feel like there's some magic in the Brewers this season. I hope that they can make a deep playoff run and hopefully make a World Series appearance. But we shall see. I don't want to get the fans too excited, but I just feel like hopefully we're going to catch a little bit of a hot streak and get some magic here going in the postseason. So let's
Yeah,
have a
I
great
like your
September.
optimism, Craig. That's great. I like your optimism. I personally don't think that this is the year myself. I don't mean to be a naysayer. I just don't think. I think we've got too many holes on this team. Personally, but I would go all in for next year. But obviously, we'll see what happens. I do think that we've got the chance to go deep in a postseason series with this pitching. I do think that we're definitely a talented team. I think that we're close. I don't know if this is the year, but fingers crossed. Let's hope.
Yeah, well, let's just stay classy, Wisconsin, and let's go Brewers.
Yep. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, Chad. Go Brewers.